Greetings, everybody. Welcome along. How are you? It's been a while since I've done one of these live videos. It is a pleasure to have you with me. I have enabled this live conversation today. I feel very rusty talking to the camera. I spend all of my time in front of this camera, and now that I've gone live, I feel like I've frozen, but it's all good. I want to welcome you along to this conversation where we are talking about the power of negative self-talk. With me today, I have the one and only Mr. Mark Wilkinson. He is live and direct from Portugal. How are you, my friend? You all right?
I'm really well, mate. Yeah, thanks for having me here. It's really good to be here.
Thank you. Thank you for taking time out of a very busy week that I know you've had. We're going to talk about now. Just give me 10 seconds just to make sure everything is okay. On the screen, I have some of the words that we're going to discuss. I'm going to take that off for a second so we can see myself now. We are streaming. Everything is recording. I'm just going to just double check on my phone to make sure it's all going well, because
it's like mission control over there, isn't it?
It is. Let's just hope that it's all working. So it's saying, and it looks like I am live. I think, yes, brilliant. Mr. Chris Hunter is there saying good morning. Now, what I realise by doing that is that I don't have the live video and comments up for me to read. So if I move that onto that side, now I should be able to. Yes, I can see Chris there, and I can see you. So we're all good to go. Thank you.
Right.
Thank you for your patience, Mark, and thank you to everyone that is here. I do remember now, going back to doing these live videos, the tendency to want to delay getting to the meat of it while people get to join us. And then I realized that they can actually always come back and check out what they've missed on the recording. So let's just get straight into this. The whole reason why I wanted to do this, most people who check this out will be aware of my own journey of self-discovery and self-awareness over the last few years, mainly inspired by your good self. So I'll always begin by thanking you for that. You were very instrumental in driving home to me the importance of language that we use. And one of the biggest phrases that always stuck in my mind with yourself is repetition is mastery. And you can never have too much of a good thing, right? I'm sure you could argue against that. So I found myself regularly stopping myself from saying certain words and phrases and understanding why that was. Coincidentally, this is going to fall in line with your new book that we have coming out. I should have introduced you as two-time bestseller author, really, and soon to be 3 times top-selling author. Well, I'm surprised you do that, Mark, because I wouldn't have thought that you believe in things like that. So your book, Personalities Remixed, is coming out on the 24th of June.
Yes, 24th of June. We expect it to be a bestseller, so that's just a bit of fun. But certainly, yeah, it's Personalities Remixed is the 3rd in the remix series. It's coming out on the 24th of June, and it's not really about me or it's actually about you and everybody else. You know, it's about humanity, and it's really looking and delving into the theory of personality diversity, and then the work that we've done in Equilibria in the last 20 plus years to actually research that theory. And some of the stories, I mean, there's over 70 contributors to the book, which in itself blows my mind. You know, I mean, 70 plus people have taken their time to write their words. You know, some of them had a tattoo on their hand even, didn't they? So you know, which does get a credit, of course. But yeah, it's a really great piece of work, I have to say. It's me co-authored by myself and Lewis Senior and Paul Grant, 2 of the co-founders of Equilibria, and I literally cannot wait to share this with everybody.
Beautiful. Well, I am going to take that graphic off the screen now, and we will talk about it again towards the end, because this genuinely isn't a plug for the book. It isn't a plug for anything. Although, in a roundabout way, it is a plug for everything that you do, because without the things that you do, I wouldn't be in the position that I am now. And many, many other people wouldn't be in a great place in their lives. So I had a conversation with an e-colors client recently. We did a one-to-one self-awareness session looking back at the results of the PDI that they took, where they discovered their own e-colors. And I made a comment about a lot of the language that was being used, saying, I must, you know, I got to force myself to do this. And I actually had to say, are you aware of how much you use those words? And it's only until someone points it out to you that you stop, look at yourself and go, I had never really stopped to do that. So rather than me rambling on, I am going to bring up well, actually, before I bring up the list, let me ask you to give me your synopsis of all of this and what it means to you and why it's so important.
Well, I never realised how important it was. I was very much like your e-colors client there, that you were, as an e-colors practitioner, that you were taking through their premium report. So, you know, fantastic work to keep extending that to more and more people. I never realised the power of the words that I was using about myself until it was pointed out to me after my life remix moment and my collapse and my disease and everything else. I never realised. I used to talk myself down a lot. You know, I used to think I wasn't, you know, or a bit specky or a bit chubby and not very confident, and all these kind of words I used to think about myself. And I often think back now to myself as a DJ and a musician and a record producer and stuff like that when I was younger. I don't think I was as successful as I could have been in that area when I was younger, because I lacked a good self-image. I lacked confidence, and I did not speak about myself in a good way. When people used to come and tell me what a great set they thought I'd just played or what a great record I'd just made, I used to sort of brush it off and go, oh, well, yeah, no, yeah, but there was a mistake there. I didn't like that, or whatever it might be. And I used to put myself down a lot. And that culminated in, you know, horrible moments in my life, which actually turned out to be blessings and then great moments to remix and change my life from. But those moments, you know, I started to get therapy. Then I got coached by Bob Proctor and some other amazing coaches. It was very much around the fact that, you know, you must improve your self-image if you're going to succeed to the level you would like to succeed in life. Okay, fine. I understand that. How do I do that? Well, you do that by changing the way you think to start with. So changing the way you think changes the way you speak. Because if, like you said earlier about stopping, you know, pausing, that pause button on the wrist there, pausing before you start saying something negative about yourself or not accepting a compliment, for instance, and things like that. Hitting the pause button and saying, you know, thank you for that compliment. Yes, I really do appreciate you saying something good about me and I accept it. That's a beautiful thing to do anyway. And then having that pause button available before you just blurt something out from your emotions, from your subconscious.
Out of embarrassment if you're not used to taking a compliment.
Absolutely.
Well,
Yeah,
let me pause you there, because I just want to state, if anyone has seen this and they aren't aware, because it can be a little arrogant to think that everyone knows everything that we're talking about. What you were describing really took my breath away and blew me away, so much so that I've actually had a tattoo put on my hand talking about living with intention. I have a play and a pause button that Mark's just been referring to. And I was very apprehensive. I was very reluctant to accept compliments. And it was after talking with Mark who said, when you know, someone pays you a compliment, acknowledge the compliments and thank them for it. So that really had a huge impact on me. And I wouldn't say I love taking compliments now, but I'm always very, very conscious of being aware of when the compliment comes and acknowledging it. And just to even be aware of that, just the change in the energy of the way the conversation flows. I really urge people to try it.
Absolutely, because when people, I mean, I play this game with people sometimes, and especially when I'm coaching them one to one, and I ask them, or rather, I pay them a compliment, and I see what happens. So, Andy, you're an amazing host of this particular piece we're doing here today, and a fantastic e-colours practitioner, and the leader of the hand tattoo play and pause people, and I really appreciate you.
In the past, I would have said, "Oh, well, it's just a little tattoo, you know. It's you know, it's nothing really. You know, that's the energy was like crazy.
Yeah.
Now it's
when I say that,
come on.
I was going to say, when I say that to you now, what comes back?
I say, well, thank you, Mark. It's changed my life, and I want more people to be aware of it. That's the reason why I share it.
Amazing. So when you start to get that energy exchange and you start to understand it, you start to build your self-worth. So if we're going back to the power of the words, a word is actually a thought in action. So you thought something and it's come out of your mouth. Now, a lot of people don't have that pause button connect between these two things, right? So they think something, and it just comes straight out of their mouth. The other impact, of course, is the vibration. So we talk a lot about the law of attraction, the law of vibration. And what actually happens is when you say words, if you put your hand here, you can actually feel the vibration of your words in your voice box, which is how the sound comes out, which is how we hear it. But that vibration vibrates into your whole body. It vibrates into your subconscious. It vibrates. It's the vibration. Your body is a mass of molecules vibrating right now. What vibration do you want to be in? So if I sat here going, oh, everything's difficult and it's a really tough time and things are grim and, and I'm not well and this and what am I vibrating at? I'm vibrating at a very, very low level, and it's just going to continue and not dissipate, but it's just going to keep going, right? And that's where I was. And that's really the basis of how I got sick and then how I ended up in a really bad state financially, as well, as everyone would have read in Life Remixed. So we have to be conscious of the words we're saying, and we have to be conscious of the thoughts that we're entertaining, because you don't have to believe every thought in your mind. You do not have to believe every thought in your mind. And actually, part of the retraining, it's a little bit like learning a language, right? If you want to learn Spanish, right? I don't speak a lot of Spanish. If I want to learn Spanish, I need to go to a teacher. I need to learn Spanish, and I need to get it slowly but surely into my thoughts, through here, into my subconscious, so it just becomes part of who I am. And that's going to take at least 12 months for me to really get there and go, yeah, okay, I can speak some Spanish now. And that's the start of that journey. Well, learning this stuff and learning to catch yourself when you say something that is, the amount of people I hear say things negative about themselves, absolutely incredible.
Would you say that is based? Well, before I ask that question, I am fully aware that some people will listen to this, and we shouldn't focus on the people who will listen to it and poo-poo it out of hand, because it is very difficult to grasp for some people, isn't it? It just sounds a little bit too out there. But as with the power of manifestation, the power of positive thinking, these things work. There's so much proof for that. That's a different conversation. When people talk themselves down, I had this conversation on one of our many Zoom meetings that we had the other day. It is basically a fear of criticism, and they are taking I'm asking you a question. Would you agree that they are taking the power away from someone else to get in there first with an insult, so they insult themselves first?
If people aren't ready to hear this information, that's okay, by the way. I understand that. I wasn't ready to hear it a lot of the time. I am nowadays, and I take it on board, and the success speaks for itself. To answer your question, there's a lot of people that, take the mickey out of each other or talk other people down, and also talk themselves down. It's not a good thing to do. It's not a good thing to do. The dreaded banter, you know what I mean? I'm just having a laugh. It's just fun. It's just this, it's just that. I get it. I understand. And, I'm not some, dull as dishwater bloke. I still enjoy fun, but I don't enjoy having fun at my own or anyone else's expense. I enjoy building people up. And I think if you can learn to do that, build yourself up and then build other people up, that's where true success lies in this world.
Beautiful. I love that. I was just looking over and making sure that everything was still going fine. We are actually live, but I don't think it's being pushed out to anybody to comment. So that's all good. We can continue with the conversation without any distractions. So I think at this point, I should bring up the list of words. And the whole topic that we are discussing today is from victim words to power words. You've got the list in front of you, and I have now got it up on the screen. So tell us, first of all, about victim words, and I think we've already covered it, right, in the first 10 minutes of the conversation.
Well, the first thing I really want to add to that as well is the couple of things that came to mind this morning when I was getting ready for this conversation. One of them was a quote by Earl Nightingale, who actually trained Bob Proctor, trained myself, is if most people said what they were thinking, they'd be speechless. Now, that in itself is quite funny, right? And some people might be defensive. Oh, what do you mean? It's not. I'm not having a dig. It's just an interesting way to kind of catch people's attention. If most people said what they're thinking, they'd be speechless. And the reason for that is that most people are not thinking. Now, again, someone might be defensive about that, but actually, good quality, positive thinking about ideas. There's the whole thing about great minds discuss ideas, average minds discuss events, and lesser minds discuss people. Well, you walk around and you listen to conversations, it's all people talking about he said, she said, and they did that, and I can't believe, talking about people. And it's not the highest vibration we can be in. Let's be talking about ideas. And that's what he's talking about. He's talking about a lot of people will be speechless because they're not actually thinking any, positive or decent thoughts, really. And the other thing that came to my mind was, many people will know that I used to work in flying records when I was a wee lad. And
you've never been a wee lad, Mark.
When I was a younger chap.
Yeah.
You think about shop workers, right? When you go in to speak to someone in a shop, we did it in the record shop all of the time, where people would say, oh, have you got this record, by so-and-so? And you'd have a look, you go, no, I'm sorry, I'm afraid we don't have that. No, it's out of stock, and you might end up saying that 20, 25 times a day, maybe, I'm afraid we don't have that. I'm afraid we don't have that. And you go in and you talk to shop workers now, you'll hear people say stuff like that. Oh, I'm afraid it's out of stock. What are they actually saying, right? With those words that are coming, they've got a thought, it's out of stock, but their only way to express it is, I'm afraid. And they're actually saying it, I'm afraid. And it goes into their, and they're afraid. And then that fear builds up and up and up. And it might be what keeps someone, stuck in a career that they don't really want to be in. So, the power of the words that we choose to use is incredible. And yet most people are not thinking about this. So if we start to think about, using more powerful, stronger words about ourselves and others, we start to get better results. And it is as simple as that. And yet, a lot of people will just resist or say, no, I don't want to do that, or whatever. But that might be something about their own self-image. And like I said, I went through therapy and then coaching before I could be this guy, and I think that's an important distinction.
Let me ask you, I think you used the word simple. It's simple there. It's simple, but it isn't necessarily easy.
That's a good point, yeah.
Because I think of myself, my wife, many of our friends who are on a weight loss journey, especially as we get closer to the summer. Most people know what they should do, in inverted commas, not a great word, what they should do to lose weight.
What they could do.
What they could do to get into shape. And more than aware of what could be done, but they don't actually do it. In theory, it's simple, but it's not easy. And this, I relate the same to this.
It's a great point. And the reason it's not easy, it's simple for me to say it to you now because this is how I live. The reason it's not easy is because of conditioning. And it's the conditioning of that one human being, the family they were brought up in, the schools they went to, the teachers that they worked with, or were taught by and everything else. But also humanity. Like, when we go through the victim list and we think about how many of these words are just natural, they just, people are saying them like 100 times a day in some places. And it takes a real effort to actually flip it and actually use some of the more powerful words. Now, you've heard, I think the fourth one down says,
I've actually
have
taken
to,
it off
got
the
to.
screen at the moment
Okay.
because I'll bring it back up in a sec. So
Okay.
before we get to the list, I'm going to bring it back up again because people will be watching the recording, so they would have already seen me bring up your book. Everything you were just saying about character and personality, we are going to cover in a workshop in a couple of weeks, in 2 weeks' time, actually, on the 7th of June. So I wanted to shoehorn that into this conversation because it is a really powerful indication of the differences in personalities and characters of possibly the language that is used. So I'll take that cover back off again. So let's go to the list of words.
And Andy, can I add that? Saturday, June the 7th, everyone's invited. It's a chance for Andy and I to talk about this and introduce you all to it. You can find out your e-colours for free. And you're more than welcome to join us on that call for, a good 2-3 hours. And of course, we'll be talking about the Personalities Remix book that's coming up. And, a lot of people think they know personality or they know e-colours. Trust me, when you read this book, you'll realise how much more there is to it. And it's a wonderful, it's like 90,000 words. I mean, it's a beautiful, amazing book, and I can't wait to share it with everyone.
I'm really looking forward to reading it. And I want to drive home again the fact that this work, my work with e-colours, it's truly a huge passion of mine. It has changed so much of my life, and I just simply want to share that with other people the same way.
And your family, Andy, and your family, right? All of you.
Indeed, which we'll talk about in a little while. Just the same as you have a nice meal, you want to share the recipe with someone, you hear a great tune, you want to share that with someone. That is what I'm doing. That is all I'm doing, really. I'm conscious of how, what's the word I'm looking for? Suspicious I used to be in the past, and I even shared words like this in Mark's book. I was very suspicious of what are they trying to sell me. So I only bring that up because I used to think that way, and I just implore people, don't think that I'm trying to get you into anything. Just please don't take my word for it.
It's so funny, isn't it? It's a bit like you said, you play that great record and you want someone else to hear it, and some people will go, "That's rubbish," and other people will go, "Oh, and that's okay, right?" But
that's good.
But yeah, it is funny that some people can be so defensive, and also as well about spending a few quid on themselves.
Yeah, it is. There's so much, and that's why I am a huge advocate of self-awareness and self-development. And, there are more conversations. Now I'm getting back into the flow of this. I'm going to be doing a hell of a lot more. You and I are on so many workshops through the week. You have your Tuesday morning sessions. We have a mastermind group on a Friday. We do, all of the new practitioners that are coming in, I'm there because I'm constantly learning, constantly looking to improve myself. But I think this is going great. 20 minutes in, pat myself on the back, pat you on the back.
Doing great.
I think we're nailing all of the. Bullet points. So let's get to the list then.
All of the objectives. Absolutely.
All of the objectives. So let's get to the list while we're here. It is now on the screen. Take me through them. The floor is yours.
Thank you, mate. So, there's a huge list here of words that if you look on the left-hand side, you can see the words that people use a lot. A lot of people will often say, well, I think this and I think that. And that's okay. That's okay. But a slightly deeper way to express yourself is, I feel something, I feel that you're doing a great job, Andy, rather than I think you're doing a great job. So that's just something that you can start to weave into your words. You can still say I think things because that's okay. But if you say I feel something, it gives it some more depth. It cracks me up when I hear people, especially on the TV, because everyone's so excited about things. They're like, it's unbelievable. I want you to listen out for how many times people say it's unbelievable, right? When you're watching the TV, especially if you're watching the football or something like that. Unbelievable skill. It's not unbelievable because you've just seen it, so it's perfectly believable, right? So actually, again, that word unbelievable goes through so many sort of conversations. Catch yourself. When people say it back to me, they say it's unbelievable the change in me and what I've done. It's perfectly believable, mate, because I can see it, right? So I think that's really key. Some people say I'll probably do that, or I might look at that, or Be more definite.
Okay.
Be more decisive.
Let me pause you there.
Hmm.
Because I'm off the screen, I was just looking on my phone, and I can actually see there are people watching for some strange reason. The live dashboard that we have in the background is showing me that no one's watching. We have got
All
people
right.
watching, so I want to say
Yes.
hi.
Hello, everyone.
I want to say hi to Chris, to Amy, to Jeff Jefferson, celebrating a big year of DJing this year. Big up my friend. To Emily as well. And we've got a few more watching who haven't commented. So thank you all, everybody. Forgive me for not mentioning you before. It's the platform that's acting a bit weird, but I've got it up on my phone now. So anybody wants to say anything, I can read your comments. Back to you, Mark. Forgive me.
Thank you, mate. No, hello, everybody, and welcome to the swimming pool here at the Anantara in Faro in Portugal. Very pleasant place where I'm having a nice weekend. So the other thing, the next thing is what I referenced earlier was when people say I have to do something or I've got to do something. Listen out for that. Listen out for yourself. I have to go and get this. I have to go. I've got to do this. I've got to do that.
Force
You haven't
negates,
got
right?
force negates. You don't have to do anything. You haven't got to do anything. You are choosing everything. Everything, right? You are even choosing the things that perhaps you don't like and the things you want to have a little moan about. But once you accept that responsibility being the key to freedom, once you accept that responsibility, you suddenly realize, okay, no, I'm going to choose to go here today and do that. That's fine. I'm choosing to do that. I'm choosing to do this job. I'm choosing to do whatever it might be. Absolutely fine. Because then you accept yourself that you're in a more powerful place and you're like, I'm choosing all of this. And if you don't like your choices, then let's do something about that. But actually, choosing to do something is much more powerful than saying, oh, I have to do this and I've got to do that. And you listen, it's everywhere, that one, absolutely everywhere. And you'll hear children say, you'll hear parents, grandparents, children, you'll hear everyone saying it. And it's a real problem. You know, people can really take control of their lives by not saying they have to or they've got to. The amount of people to say, but, I'd like to do that, but, but negates everything you say before it. So a much more powerful word to drop in would be, and, I'd like to do that, and I'm going to find a way to do it.
Mm-hmm.
There
That's
you go.
really,
It's a much more powerful.
really vital in email communication or any kind of communication as well. I can't remember what book it was in, but I do recall that what was it you said? Everything before a but is forgotten. Yeah.
It doesn't mean anything.
Okay. So it is very important to consider the word but in. So if I was going to give somebody a compliment, let's say, for example, for their radio show, you did a really great show at the weekend, Mark, but I really think that you could have improved the way that you were talking on the microphone from time to time. Now, I think I'm giving you constructive criticism, but all you're hearing is you were shit on the mic.
Yeah.
Right?
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. And so, I could catch I write an email and then I'll look at it and go, hang on a minute, there's a button there, and I'll go back and, read it before I hit send, reread it before I hit send. And very much, catch myself still doing it, even after years and years and years of practice, I'll find a way to add, you did a really great show at the weekend, and I think some of your work on the mic was fantastic. Do you think there are any other areas that you could improve on? That kind of thing. It's just something to, rather than the top color, red E color, telling them something. It might be like asking them something a bit more kind of conducive to them being able to grow and say, well, yeah, I'm going to work on that. I'll do better there. That kind of thing. And then that just builds relationships. It just builds, you're building people up rather than.
Yeah, when we talk about it like this, in hindsight, and when you shine a light on it, it can all feel a little it could possibly feel a little calculated and insincere. However, it isn't really, is it? Because you are putting a lot of effort in to get the best out of those interactions that you possibly can. And again, this is part of a much wider conversation that we could be having. So I'm going to shut up and stop interfering.
No. Listen, I think you're absolutely right. I mean, look, it's only insincere if you don't mean it. If you, but there's a whole, I don't really like the phrase "fake it till you make it." But if you don't feel a certain way that you'd like to be feeling, I prefer the words faith it until you make it, right? Start to have a bit more faith and belief and confidence in yourself, in the fact the way you like project yourself to other people. Yeah, everyone watching this back and watching this live. Have a bit more confidence in yourself in a good way. Know when to hit your pause button, know when to hit your play button, and think about these victim words to power words so that you can actually get the best results that you would like, not only for yourself, but for everyone else as well. We all win together. I often say that if you could be a millionaire on your own, then you would have done it by now. The way you create and make millions and do great things with that money and everything else, like what you're doing with the Access charity work and stuff like that, which is amazing, by the way. And again, love it and happy to contribute. There you go. See, and with that kind of stuff in mind, we win together. So therefore, let's win together. And the way you win together, it's not calculating, it's not manipulative, it's actually like, okay, how do I need to communicate with this person? And if I use these more powerful words about myself, then I can share that with someone else. So again, it's self-perpetuating. It gains momentum, and like learning to speak a new language, by the time you've put a few years into it, you're on it. And people enjoy you. They love you being around, and you don't really have to try anymore. It's just natural. It becomes natural, which I think is very, very important.
I love that.
So a few others, the amount of people say I can't do things, is it really does make me smile. I'd love to be a coach, or I'm an author, or I'd love to be a DJ, and I'd love to do this, but I can't because da 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 da. It's like, how can I do that rather than or how or when can I do that rather than I can't do it, because I can't do it just knocks it dead, and you've kiboshed your dreams in seconds.
Mm-hmm.
So again, we've got to look out at that.
It is very much part of a much wider overarching conversation that we could talk hours and hours about, but it's about accepting responsibility, isn't it? And excuses.
You've got to be responsible for your thoughts, your words, your feelings, and your actions. And when you have mastered that, it becomes apparent, and then people enjoy you, and they enjoy what you do and what you offer and what you bring to the world. And that's how you grow. I wish, in some ways, it's not a regret, because I don't have regrets, because I've got a life remix story and everything else. But I do wish that someone in put this sort of information in front of me when I was 10 years old or 20 years old rather than 40 years old. Would I be ready? I don't know. But actually, the key point is that, this information, when you start to put it in front of, those that are watching that have got kids and stuff like that, put it in front of your younger people and let them have a read or a listen, and let them start to understand themselves and other people better. It's the fast track to success when you start to master this stuff.
Yeah, and even just planting the seed and bringing awareness to the words and making people pause and consider a different delivery. It just gives an extra energy to, you are kind of helping build, as you say, for youngsters, giving them it's kind of like a cheat code that many other people don't have, right?
There's an amazing chapter in this Personalities Remix book coming up called E-Colours in Education. And it's quite a long chapter, but it's just, it's towards the back of the book. I can't wait for people to read it, because once you've read it, it's like, how can we get this in front of more younger people? How can we give them, as you say, the code to understanding themselves and each other? I mean, as a quick example, I had one family that I coached a couple of years ago, and the father was top colour red, the mother was top colour green, and both of the children, one was top colour blue, one was top colour yellow, and there was all kinds of conversations going on in that house where people were just not getting each other at all. And we put the E-colours in front of them and showed them the communication styles, and it was just like, whoa, okay. And they just started to listen to each other in a whole different way, and then communicate, and get harmony is there in that house, because
it's a beautiful thing. Of course, there are going to be exceptions with the language that we use, and just having this as the platform to begin the way that we think. For example, you said then, I can't wait for people to read the book. That's a positive thing, right? That's not a negative thing, even though here we're saying it's a victim word.
There's probably a better way to say that, which is, I am looking forward to you all reading the book. There you go. Yeah. So we could all fall into that. But the key point is that, being able to accept it when it's reflected back to you. So thank you. And also be able to use it for your own advantage in a good way to help others. Keep reflecting it back to yourself and other people so that you keep changing and growing. And, I don't want people to feel that using these words, are wrong. I want them to actually look at them and go, is that really how I want to communicate? Is that how I want my subconscious to be reflecting into the world? And it's a constant state of improvement. And, as you well know, Bob Proctor, my sort of lead coach when I was younger, who helped me through recovery, if you like, from the secret. He was in the secret recovery from the disease and the bankruptcy. And now Lewis Senior from Equilibria, who I'm grateful to call a friend. These guys are older, experienced, amazing people, and they are still learning. Bob Proctor learned and was coaching others and still learning himself until 2 weeks before he passed away. Mm-hmm. And I think that I feel that we can all really learn from that and revere those people.
They are your Yodas, and as you are my Obi-Wan Kenobi.
Yeah, I like the reference. I love that. But yeah, absolutely. Yeah, look, they are older than me and they are experienced. Bob was 90 when he passed. Lewis is in his 70s now. I'm in my 50s, as are you. And we are, bringing up other people into this as well. We've got people doing the e-colours as young as 7 years of age. Mm-hmm. When you read the e-colours in education chapter, you'll be blown away by that. And, when you see a 7, 8, 9, 10-year-old suddenly go, okay, they're not being difficult. It's just that's just how they communicate, or that's what they do. Okay, right, now I understand that. I can work with it. And again, this is a lot of these words here. It's about understanding them. It's about understanding them, and then doing something about it. So, if just as an example, do you remember that Radio 5 Live interview that I did a few weeks back when I was talking about the Money Remix book, and we were talking about stress, and the presenter said to me that the whole month of stress awareness in April was lead with love, and he asked me what love was, and I thought, here's my opportunity. So I just flipped it back on him and I said, well, why don't you tell me what love is? Because the reason I did that was because until you can understand and put your feelings into a word or into some words that help you really understand what they are, humanity finds it very, very difficult to actually work with certain things. So, love, a lot of people say, well, love is just an emotion, or it's a feeling of, I don't know, safety or security or whatever it might be. However they want to describe love, that's fine. Everyone's got their own description. But for me, as soon as you get love into your head, it's just total acceptance. So love you, totally accept you as you are right now. If you are using some of these words, love yourself, accept it. Because once you can totally accept it, that's when you're in the opportunity of changing it. You only have to look at Alcoholics Anonymous. People will walk into Alcoholics Anonymous and they'll be in denial or sadness or bargaining or depression or fear or anger, whatever it might be. You don't get into Alcoholics Anonymous that way. You only get in there when you walk in and say, hi, my name's Mark and I'm an alcoholic, which is total acceptance of where you are right now. So totally accept where you are right now, and then make the tweaks and the changes and start to use more powerful, beautiful words about yourself and what you're doing.
Amazing. I'm going to I've brought the words back up again because we're not going to go through them all. People will be able to grab these if they're not available at the moment on your website. I'm sure we might be able to make them available if they want, although they have been on the screen for pretty much all of this.
These are normally kept for my coaching clients, but we wanted to put it out there. We wanted to share more. Mm-hmm. The whole purpose of everything that I do is just to help other people, because I want people to feel as good as I feel, and I've been through it. You've read that. I've been through some dark times, right? When I played records back in the days, because I play records and I still play them on your Vocal Booth Radio, by the way, and other radio places. And I love it. I love doing that. And I still do a few gigs out and about once in a while. Looking forward to your Vocal Booth Radio to get together at the end of July, 26th of July in Birmingham. So, I still do that. But the reason I play my records there is because I want other people to feel as good as I feel about the records that I'm playing. Well, and then people say to me, don't you miss DJing all of the time, every week in, week out? No, not at all. Why not? Because I've got this other thing that I can do, or these other things that I can do, which is write books, share these kind of conversations, use this kind of information to share it with others, and coach people one-to-one. Is just being able to do that is the greatest joy of my life.
Mm-hmm. It's a pleasure to behold as well. I'm putting the list back up because it does have at the bottom markwilkinsonofficial.com. So reach out to Mark. You can book a free 30-minute consultation with him. He will analyze where you are or listen to you and find out what you hope to achieve from life and offer some suggestions, and possibly working with him could be the best thing that you ever do. I think we have achieved everything that I wanted to achieve from this brief conversation, taking you away from your wonderful wife whilst you enjoy some downtime. I think we've given people all the information to start to ponder how they can change their language. And I'm fairly certain we are going to have one or two people register and join us for the workshop on the 7th of June, which is linked in the description of this live video. Do you have any final words to share?
Well, first of all, I just want to say thank you so much for inviting me and those very, very kind words. In those 30-minute sessions, if someone wants 30 minutes one-to-one with me, I'm there for you. Some people won't do it because he's just going to try and sell me something. Honestly, it's that conversation we had earlier. If you want 30 minutes with me and we just have a chat, and that's all you ever want to do, no problem. You know what I mean? That's fine. You know what I mean? It's for my joy as a top color yellow with the E colors. My joy is people. Music was a tool for me when I was younger to connect with people. Thankfully, now I have all these other tools in my toolkit as well to be able to connect with people and add some value and give people a bit of a helping hand. And anything I can do, I'm here.
Beautiful. I was just looking round to grab your book to read the words that I had shared from the book about how I was very skeptical at the beginning. However, I have given that book as a gift to someone to read, to get them, to preach the word. So I can't share that. But I was very resistant initially, and here I am 2 years down the line, actually 4 years down the line.
Andy, let's look at that in a bit more depth, just for a couple of minutes before we end and stuff. But let's look at that. Being honest with yourself, and everyone on this call, where did that skepticism come from?
A fear of money, a dislike of money. And from my conditioning, from my growing up, my parents' association with money and viewing how my dad behaved around money, I always thought money was a negative thing. And so I always thought people were trying to get money out of me that I didn't have.
And so that's not, it was never necessarily your belief. It was beliefs that you'd inherited from other people in society and everything else around you, right?
100%.
And then from there, it's not necessarily like, although I appreciate your kind words, it's not necessarily that I've turned up and reprogrammed you or, all that kind of stuff. It's like, I've just said, well, have a look at, there's a different way to look at this. Have a little look at this now. And then you've gone away and taken that into your own world and accepted it. And you're more successful today than ever.
100%. Yeah, because I was a very driven, motivated, inspired person by everyone around me. I mean, my catchphrase, inspire and be inspired, that's 16, 17 years old now. This isn't something that I've just come across. And it's how I was able to build this incredible network of people that I have, because everything that we've said, wanting to share knowledge with others and wanting to gain knowledge from other people as well. So, yeah. But, don't do yourself a disservice. You made you did make a massive difference. However, I will say it is it only needed a tiny little change in my way of thinking to get me to a much better place where I am now. And that's what we're looking to share with others.
And if we look at that, it took like about 12 months of 2 sessions a month and all the other book clubs and all the other things that we do online and in person and stuff like that. But it took that, didn't it? Repetition for you to sort of go, okay, yeah, now I get it. And then I'm going to go with it. And, you know, I say to people, please don't take my word for this stuff. You know, listen to what I'm saying, because I've been in the doldrums and now I'm very successful and very happy. Don't take my word for it, though. You know, just listen to what I've said. Listen to the, you know, read the books, understand the things I'm talking about, apply it to your own life, and then come back to me, you know, and tell me about the results. Because Bob Proctor said this to me many years ago. He said, Mark, it works for every person, every single time. And I remember laughing and thinking like that. No, it doesn't. You know, you just like, you know, because I didn't have any money and I wasn't in a good place and I was very ill. When he said it works for every person every time, I didn't have anything to lose, so I said, "Come on, then, let's go," and I did. And yeah, here we are.
Wonderful, I love it. Okay, I'll thank you and let you get back to it. I'll thank the people who are still with us live and the people who will come back and check out the recording who are still here to the very end. MarkWilkinsonOfficial.com. Do get in touch with him. If we have raised any questions, then you can always inbox me direct or take a look at my own website, ajw360.com. Right, I'm just going to end it there. Mark, enjoy the rest of Saturday. Send my love to Emma, and I will see you on our next call on Tuesday morning.
Thank you, mate. Appreciate it.
Take care.